Good afternoon, everyone. I am sitting here not being very productive. So I figured I have this new purchase of mine, which makes me an asset of our real enemy, Canada. See this? So the other Oilers cap was too small. But we have to deal with the fallout from yesterday's Democratic debate. And really the key right now is this nonsense about Tulsi Gabbard being a Russian asset, and also I believe they keep calling her an Assad puppet or something. And this is from Newsweek. We'll get back to the Russia stuff, but it says Tulsi Gabbard responds to Kamala Harris's Assad apologist comments. Says she'll meet dictators to protect Americans. I will never apologize. Let's see if we can hear this.
Do you think Assad is our enemy?
Assad is not the enemy of the United States because Syria does not pose a direct threat to the United States.
What do you say to Democratic voters who watched you go over there, and what do you say to military members who have been deployed repeatedly in Syria, pushing back against Assad?
People who have been deployed to Syria have been there focused on their mission, which has been to defeat ISIS.
So this is something that I would say is a clear indication of the disconnect between American media and being able to tell the truth of what goes on in the war on terror. The reason that American troops were deployed to Syria is completely disconnected from anything to do with Bashar Assad. Bashar Assad is an abominable person. The regime that he represents, first of all, it came to power in the early 70s through a military coup. So you don't have to necessarily support his system of government, the things that he's done to his people, including butcher them, in order to support this notion that the United States should not be involved in a civil conflict in Syria. Unfortunately, we have a lot of countries around the world that are awful actors. They don't really have any respect for the rights of their own people. It doesn't mean that we can go into each of those countries and sort things out. That goes for Myanmar, that goes for Pakistan, that goes for China, that goes for Vietnam. And in fact, nowadays it almost applies to France and countries like that. And indeed, in the winter, we had a whole long discussion about this in Venezuela. The difference between supporting a country and deciding that you don't want a war with it. There's a huge difference between those two. So she has been attacked over the past 24 hours, largely because she went after Kamala Harris over her record as Attorney General of California, which we'll find over here.
She put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana. She blocked evidence. She blocked evidence that would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. A friend of mine.
Dennis, your mother is a dirty, dirty whore.
Oh, God damn it, Dad.
Mine actually called me and he said, Kamala, my wife got the letter. She freaked out. She brought all the kids into the living room, held up the letter, said, if you don't go to school, Kamala's going to put you and me in jail. Yes, we achieved intended.
I just can't believe this.
Hey, Dad, keep your
you
voice down.
whore!
Going without an education is tantamount to a crime. So I decided I was going to start prosecuting parents for truancy. Well, this was a little controversial in San Francisco. And frankly, my staff went bananas. They were very concerned because we didn't know at the time whether I was going to have an opponent in my re-election race. But I said, look, I'm done. This is a serious issue, and I've got a little political capital, and I'm going to spend some of it.
Horrible whore wife. Huh? Did you bang my whore wife? Does anybody here have any illegitimate children with my whore wife that I should know?
And this is what we did. We recognized that in that initiative, as a prosecutor and law enforcement, I have a huge stick. The school district has got a carrot. Let's work in tandem around our collective objective and goal, which is to get those kids in school.
I mean, she probably went right from the clinic and banged some guy and got knocked up because your mother was a giant whore.
Oh, you know what, dude? I don't believe you, Frank.
So, to that end, on my letterhead, now let me tell you something about my letterhead. When you're the DA of a major city in this country, usually the job comes with a badge. And there is often an artistic rendering of said badge on your stationery. So, I sent a letter out on my letterhead to every parent in the school district, outlining the connection that was statistically proven between elementary school truancy, high school dropouts, who will become a victim of crime, and who will become a perpetrator of crime. We sent it out to everyone.
You tell her she's a goddamn whore.
Ooh,
Always been a whore.
A friend of mine actually called me and he said, Kamala, my wife got the letter. She freaked out. She brought all the kids into the living room, held up the letter, said, if you don't go to school, Kamala's going to put you and me in jail. Yes, we achieved intended effect.
Dude, why, you got a problem?
Yeah, this makes me seem like a whore.
You are a whore.
No, I'm not a whore. I'm a handsome companion.
Anthony Perkins and Fear Strikes Out.
Okay. Kamala Harris has what it takes.
Like opening pitch? Yeah.
Joe writes in part this: it's one thing to propel a presidential campaign off a launch pad, and quite another to successfully send it into a safe political orbit. But a few days into her campaign, even Harris's critics should take note that the junior senator managed something in her first campaign speech that the last Democratic nominee failed to do throughout the whole 2016 campaign. She gave Americans a compelling explanation as to why she wanted to be president. Her message, "We are better than this," was delivered with the fierce urgency of now, in that it was much like the earlier campaign launch by Senator Elizabeth Warren, who framed her own White House bid as the continuation of her quest to protect consumers, to hold corporate leaders accountable, and to promote a fiery brand of progressivism shaped by the prairie populism of Oklahoma and the liberal ethos of Harvard intellectualism.
So that was a pretty long review, but it goes into some of what Tulsi Gabbard was attacking her for, namely the truancy and the marijuana prosecutions. And it doesn't even go into the death penalty case where Kamala Harris withheld exculpatory evidence that would have led to the release of a prisoner who was sentenced to death. And I get it that in many cases, you know, I have very ambiguous feelings about the death penalty. I would say I generally consider myself an opponent of it, but I definitely, as a civil liberties supporter, beyond opposing the death penalty, which I think is a legitimate topic of discussion, I think that the idea that you would withhold exculpatory evidence about any defendant who you have a suspicion could be innocent is unethical. You can't be a leader. You can't be a prosecutor if you do that. It's much more egregious than any of the crimes that somebody like Trump has been accused of. Even that Obama, technically, I would say, never worked as a prosecutor. So this is something that he never had to deal with. And to be fair, I don't even think President Clinton ever worked as a prosecutor. And he was a lawyer for a few years. So when you're a prosecutor, you do have a duty. It's not necessarily the only thing you have to focus on, but it's something you need to keep in mind, that you don't punish people that you have evidence are innocent. Okay? You're not trying to put people in prison as deterrence, even if you know that they might be innocent. That's abuse of power. Now, apparently Meghan McCain got into a little spat with some of the other hosts of The View. And the thing is that I hate Meghan McCain, but I also hate the other people on The View.
Dennis, your mother is a dirty, dirty whore.
Oh, God damn it, Dad.
Let's hear a little
Oh, he's
bit.
bringing his own party to daytime.
So we're back. You hadn't wanted
So I don't know what they had to do with Jerry O'Connell.
I thought the Kamala didn't do as well as she did during the first debate because she had that breakout moment in the first debate.
No shit, she didn't do as well.
But I think she does need to do better in terms of defending her record as a prosecutor, because we are a nation of laws, and that should be a positive as opposed to a negative. And I thought that Tulsi Gabbard.
So if we are a nation of laws and you support allowing illegal immigrants into the country, then we're not a nation of laws, right?
Wanted to come for her because she is more of a fringe candidate because her numbers are very low.
The Republicans like Tulsi.
The Republicans like her. And, I think she's a real Trojan horse here because when you look at her record in particular.
Look at this language, Trojan horse. The Republicans like look, voters voters shouldn't care if somebody is liked by one constituency or another. If I see a candidate who's really liked by, I don't know, Chinese Americans, well, there could be some underlying reasons for that, but that doesn't necessarily disqualify them. It doesn't make them a Trojan horse.
She's apologized for it, but she was very anti-LGBTQ community. She also has praised Trump for meeting with Kim Jong-un 3 times.
Well, they like her.
She was one of 47 House Democrats who joined her Republican colleagues, voting for a measure that would halt Syrian and Iraqi refugees from resettling in the U.S. She's also refused to call Assad a war criminal, and actually
to do it.
I never really noticed this, but Sunny Hostin does have a New York accent, which is pretty strange.
Last night.
And she refused to do it last night. And then per an NBC News report,
Really?
Russian propaganda machines favors Gabbard. So when I look at all of that, I'm concerned that she is attacking Harris, and I'm concerned that she has any traction.
So I agree that
the Republicans will start throwing money at her.
Oh, what do you think she's gonna do? Call her husband and say she's banging a whore? Dennis, up those stairs.
I agree that when she came on the show, you and I
Here she's about to get just wrecked by a train.
asked her about it, and I believe you brought up Venezuela. I'm not expunging that, but I will say the idea that because she got a really good blow into Kamala and smoked her on an issue, talking about how she put people in jail for smoking weed and then bragged about how she smoked weed on the radio. It was a great line. She landed a big blow on what was the front runner last time. The idea that she's now a Trojan horse is just political
I have a question. I don't know about that, though. The Trojan horse thing, maybe I'm paranoid, but, after Jill Stein, I am paranoid.
Right.
And there is
Jill Stein ran on a third party. She's a Trojan horse in her own party. How is that a Trojan horse?
There's a ton of there's a lot of writings on it today on Tulsi, and I like Tulsi. I disagree with her vehemently on foreign policy in particular. But I'm seeing people who used to dislike her tremendously now all of a sudden like her. And there's a lot of writings in things like Russia Today. There's a lot of Russian bot traffic around Tulsi. There's something going on. I suspect it's not knowingly by her because I think she's a decent human being who served this country. But
can I tell you why I like parts of her? Because she's a combat veteran. She's talking about patriotism in a way that I have heard no other candidate other than Biden talk about. She's pro-gun. She's pro-military. She's speaking in a lot of ways that is resonating with Republicans that have. And by the way, did I or do I not make sure that we put in that the gentleman that was poisoned by Putin got in the show because I didn't think it was getting enough publicity in the media. So the idea that I'm somehow watching RT, by the way, I can't even travel to Russia because my family's sanctioned from going there, and I like her at the same time.
Nobody's saying you. I'm talking about other people. I mean, just because I'm making a reference doesn't mean it's a reference to you. It would lead to a more constructive behavior if you
But I am in the
take it
Venn
personally.
diagram of what you just said. I am that person. I am a Republican who thinks what she's saying is interesting.
That's why I say the Republicans like her, and they're going to start throwing money at her.
Did you see the look on Ana Navarro's face?
Nobody's saying you. I'm talking about other people. I mean, just because I'm making a reference doesn't mean it's a reference to you. It would lead to a more constructive behavior if you
I am in the
take it
Venn
personally.
diagram of what you just said. I am that person. I am a Republican who thinks what she's saying is interesting.
That's why
You see this look?
You whore!
the Republicans like her, and they're going to start throwing money at her.
And you know what?
So just
God
keep your eye
forbid
on her
any
out there.
Republicans like any of the Democratic candidates on any way. Just bloodlet every independent and Republican who's curious about any Democratic candidates out. And at the same time, keep attacking Obama and his wife.
I will tell you,
I mean,
her
really
best
winning
friend-
strategy, guys.
Her best friend in Congress used to be very close to Adam Kissinger, a Republican. They were both combat veterons. That
He's
relationship
also a friend of mine, by the way.
Okay, and he's a friend of mine too. That relationship has ended because of her apologism for Assad, because she went and visited with Assad, because she can't call him.
I'm not supporting her.
I
just think what she's saying is interesting, and I think that the idea that because she got a big hit on Kamala, now she's a
again, look at Ana Navarro is
with Assad
incapable.
she can't
I'm not
call
supporting
him.
her. I just think what she's saying is interesting, and I think that the idea that because she got a
look at that face. Look at Meghan McCain. And anybody on The View is like oil and water.
Big hit on Kamala. Now she's a Russian stooge.
We have to make
I'm not saying that. I'm saying here's what's happening now, y'all.
Sonny has to make some
Sonny
money.
has to do this thing.
Right.
Go ahead, Sonny.
Sonny has to get through with calling Tulsi Gabbard a Russian stooge in order to cover for Kamala Harris and her horrible career.
Are gonna like.
Yeah.
No one likes a bad night's sleep. A bad night's sleep can ruin your entire day. So our sponsor, IKEA, is making sure you.
Oh, never mind. They're just plugging some of their garbage that sponsors them. Anyway, yes, we're talking about a full court press to try to get Tulsi Gabbard painted as a Russian stooge. In fact, there's a lot of stuff going on. This guy from Morning Joe, I believe. There's a lot of stuff like this going around where RT likes her, therefore she's awful. Listen, the fact that you like her, the fact that you like Kamala Harris, the fact that MSNBC supports Kamala Harris, that's a strike against Kamala Harris. RT is not even, doesn't even have a fraction of the influence of MSNBC or Comcast, any of the other major conglomerates of media here in the U.S. It doesn't even come close. It's not even near. And you're going to criticize Tulsi Gabbard for getting some praise from RT when your networks have been pushing disinformation and erroneous concerning the Russia investigation for the past 3 years, and you're going to criticize Tulsi Gabbard. Let's look at a few of the tweets here. People are mocking it, and then you have Grace Vasquez is saying, Tulsi Gabbard kicked Kamala Harris's ass so hard she didn't need her broom to fly. And then you have these people, these two minority activists are saying, Tulsi Gabbard equals Jill Stein. She's a plant. And then this far leftist is saying, making wild accusations without any real evidence is very Trumpian. Reminds me of QAnonists. It's disrespectful, especially to Gabbard, considering the service and sacrifice she's personally made for this country. And then the other guy says, Fran, you appear to be a WikiLeaks apologist and a Marxist. I don't think we have anything to say to each other, and I have no reason to prove anything to you. Have a nice day. And then they go back and forth. This guy says, a black man who believes in socialism, yes. Also in the freedom of speech, and that Julian Assange and other whistleblowers of government corruption should not be persecuted. Sad that you feel that you can't engage because of that. And then they go back and forth, and one calls each other. Finally he says, hey, Putin, where is that info from WikiLeaks on Russia you were talking about? You can stop. You are not being honest with me. So, yes, on Twitter, you're having these people. The left is tearing each other apart on this, calling Mitch McConnell Moscow Mitch. There's no proof that he's Moscow Mitch. There's no real nexus between Mitch McConnell and Russia. Mitch McConnell has no, there's plenty of things you can criticize him for, including some of the, crony capitalism that his wife is engaged in, who's the transportation secretary. It's one of the reasons that us as libertarians are not really big friends of Mitch McConnell. We more support people like Rand, the other Kentucky senator. This person says Tulsi is a fuck queen, I don't know what the hell this says. GOP propaganda whore in disguise. Don't let her fool you. She has no intent of getting anywhere in the election. Her game plan is to spoil and disrupt. Journalists who know how to do their job should call her out. So this is very, very feministic, going and calling her a GOP propaganda whore. And they're saying here we really shouldn't have to explain to people what propaganda is and how to recognize it. But here we are. We may have to mount an old-fashioned World War II style campaign against disinformation to reach those who missed this chapter in our history last time. So that's about it for right now. I think a lot of you are noticing the same thing that I am. I saw Tim Pool. I haven't seen his video yet, but I saw that he made a video about this. A lot of people that I know are talking about it. A lot of people, including Gab founder, what's his name? Andrew Torba, have commented on this. So we're seeing the live dismantling of a candidate because she dared to say something true about another candidate that is close to the establishment. Talk to you later. Please like, share, and subscribe. Also subscribe to me on BitChute and on Minds.com, as well as donate to me on Subscribestar. My screen name on all those is @ChefLeopard, and on Gab you can find me @Starscream85.
I just can't believe this.
Hey, Dad, keep your
you
voice down.
whore!
Inside my future eye, what I see just makes me cry.